On the western side of Heirline Island lie a group of hundreds of smaller islands. Cease Penny is returning, as he frequently does, to his home at Tax Beach on King's Island. I am interested to learn a little about island life today and how it was before resettlement, and already I can understand the emotion at being resettled. But was it necessary? Well, maybe.
We used to swim through here. I'd come out and jump over the wharf and everything like that, you know, things like that. Yeah. And going around little ponds and flats and things like that, rolling around. I mean, that was our enjoyment. Piece built on this stage, we used to put the dry fish out. Yeah. And, you know, in there. Yeah. And that was later years. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Because trawls then, see? There, look, there's one right there, look. I mean, you know, that's how old it was, old trawls then.
It's not nailed and free-nailed it over.
There's nailed over, the first crab, but it's put there with trawls. I mean, you can see one there, as they say, look. And there's more than that. And over here, look, you see him there, there's another one right there, look. Another one there, see him? So the wooden was nails on the go. The first one went, you see?
Oh, yeah.
Another one there, another one there, look.
The main business was to in Tax Beach, the Browns, H.C. Brown, them, as I can remember. I can't remember nothing about Cecil's father, but I can remember about Cecil him here. Just the business was just over the road there, and his house was up right here on the back of these trees here. And that house now, when we shifted back in '67, I think it was, back in '67, we shifted that house. We took it out to the barge here. Now that house is resettled in Southern Harbour, and the Billings family bought in Southern Harbour, and I don't know who owns it right now. They got it sold again, but that's where the Browns, and that was one of the biggest houses that was in, I guess, in the community somewhat. I guess because they were the merchants, they could afford it more so than just ordinary Joe. But there was some fine houses here besides, because this area here had 4 or 5 houses, big 2-story houses, and them houses now are in Arnold's Cove, in this area here, just where this cabin's sitting.
Well, I was here till I was 13, then we moved to Arnold's Cove. So, yeah, it was not too far from actually where I'm doing now, just up on the hill from here. Yeah, so we had a good life here when we were here, but I guess, like everything else, if resettlement hadn't happened when it did, it would have happened, because we all would have moved out anyhow. When time came to go to work, there wasn't enough work here to keep us people going, so we would have eventually moved anyhow.
You were a boy of 13. You were still at school. What ambitions had you had not resettlement occurred? What would you have done, do you think?
I probably would have followed my father's footsteps and went on the schooners and boats and that kind of stuff. Probably. My father wasn't into fishing, so I don't think I'd have went that route. But I probably would have been coasting on the boats with my father. That's what my brother started out at, so I probably would have done the same thing.
And what was resettlement to a child of 13? Was that an exciting prospect?
Not really, because we were hidden somewhere we didn't know about. A lot of us didn't want to go. But when you look back on it, I guess it was the right thing to do at the time. But it wasn't that bad, because like when we moved, the community moved with us, and most of our friends moved with us. So it wasn't like we were going someplace where we had to make all new friends and everything. Our friends moved with us.
Well, in its heyday, I think it was somewhere around over 400 people, between 400 or 500 people in its heyday. That's for Tax Beach, we say, Bestis Harbour and Broad Cove, and another little community down the way there, just down in the cove there, called Cooper's Cove. I think it was 8 or 10 families down there, and everybody on the island, majority of them, commuted to the business right here that Browns had. When we were kids growing up here, we were 14 or 15 or younger than that, 15, I left there. That cabin over there with the smoke coming out of them, the church was right straight across from here, and you could see by looking at some of the older photographs that there was no trees there whatsoever. All over along this side here, you could see the school and the church on the photograph.
Today little remains of the old buildings, but those who have returned and built cabins maintain the appearances.
Yeah, I'm coming back to the old school now, where I got all my education. Here, there's four classroom schools, 2 here, and 2 out the other way, kind of on nail like. A lot of the fillers that I beat around with here now, even though it's only a few years ago to say, some 50 odd year ago since we left there, pretty well 50, another year or so. And a lot of them's dead and gone. Worked with them for years. Gone on. A lot of more people that I went to school with here. Never seen them since.
You know, everybody was leaving, and then like there was a few people left and went to Sunnyside, and you know, and we heard stories about it down there. So this house was for sale, and so we went and got it and settled there we were there for 9 years. Yeah.
And did you always, even back then, in your minds, want to or think that you might come back here and kind of settle?
No, not to settle, no.
Port Anne is situated in Nonsuch Arm on the western shore of Placentia Bay. A young Ben Deere gets a commanding view of the community in the 1960s. Today, he and his cousin Albert Deere reminisce.
It's a very important part of your life, school.
Yes.
Tell me what you can remember of school days and setting fire to things.
Well, this area here, this used to be our school. Looking around now, you'd never say that we used to have a school here. And matter of fact, it was a playground that we had there was big enough that we'd play ball while we were waiting to go in school. It wasn't just rounders or something like that, but we actually done it. And my cousin here, we went to school together. I remember one morning, it was my turn to put the fire in, and I figured I was going to have a day off. So I got a lot of dry stuff and I put in there, and then I put a lot of coal in there. And I caught her on fire. And she smoked a lot, and it took all the women that poured in to clean her down. It took them 2 days. So we got 2 days off, but I don't think I had 2 days pleasure.
What did you, Ben, make of school days?
No comment.
This is our handmade hockey rink. Everybody that was big enough to carry a shovel or a pick, when we come out of school, this is where we come. Everybody, almost everybody in Port Anne was out helping out, and we dug all that out by hand. The last in here, on the corner here, it was a bit drier, and we used to use a old plywood flat, and we'd take it out and pile the mud in, and we'd pull the flat in and dump her out and send her back out again. And that's how we got it all dug out. We used it for years there. Playing hockey was quite a feat for a bunch of kids and that, coming out of school and digging it out.
Many old islanders dream of their home. It is still home, but very few actually own a cabin, let alone the boat, to get them across. Yet centuries of island life is built into the mind and soul, and the spirit will always be hard to crush. The Peavies still own much of this water frontage from where they fished.
Yeah. You know, my grandfather and grandmother, Peavy, and my mother and father, so all into one plot. There are 4 of them there in one plot too. Well, it's all grassed in now, and grass is mowed there and that.
It's very interesting that coming from Port Anne, nobody had a house towed. Why was that?
Because of the rough sea, I guess, and the distance. Now, there was families that had houses bought in other places, moved in, but there was no one there. About 2 years after resettlement, now there was some houses that was moved from Port Anne. There was 2 to the southeast bight, and there was 2 to North Harbour.
Oh yes, and this year we spent more time here. It's very peaceful, beautiful place to be. We just love it here. But in the meantime, we love to go home as well. But this is a beautiful place to be. I just love it.
How much of the year do you spend here, actually?
Usually 4 or 5 months of the year, but this year has been 6 months so far.
It was built in 1829. He's around 85 years old, and I was born in this house, and some of my brothers and sisters was born here too. Here, this archway here wasn't here at the time, and later was discovered because we used to go into this door, and going through, and come on out, and come in here, and this was known as the court parlour, because my dad, God bless him, when he was alive, I asked him did he have mom in her, and he said, well, I said, I'm not going to go to that extent, but he said, I started courting your mother here, yes, so they used to be, I guess he used to have her in here, I guess in the courting parlour, and God love him, my heart is, I miss him so much when I comes back here, like he's always on my mind, because I can see back years ago, when we were, like I said, getting up and coming down on the school, I used to see him, they used to be out fishing and that, right? And this is known as, this is what I'm saying about in here. It was known as this used to be here, but there used to be, in here used to be an organ, an old organ on that wall right here. We took that out of it. This organ was from the house up there, the courting parlour. That's where the organ was to. And I guess he used to be playing that when he was courting my mom. It's new, and there used to be a big long table, long here, and a big chair thing. I don't know what they call it. I don't know what they used to call it. I guess when they come in, sit down. I guess when they were going out together. But I mean, there's just so many memories. There's a lot of things that I don't know about it here. My mom doing. She's still alive. She'll turn 80 in November. So we'll have a little party for her and that, right? But I mean, she'd know a lot more about this place than what I would. But just brings back a lot of memories to me, knowing that my family in this house and where I was born, and some of my brothers and sisters, like I think it was Ethel, and it was Mary, Levi, and me, and Rob. I'm not sure if Rob was born here or in Bjorn, but I know Chris was born in Arlescourt, but there's 8 of us in the family, and just knowing that my family was in this house, like I can sit down there now and I can feel it in my heart, and I can go back in my mind and just see us going to school and here in the house, and having Mama being out there in the kitchen baking a big lot of bread. She used to bake 13 or 14 loaves of bread. We're all a bunch of hawks, I guess. I love the homemade bread. And I mean, I sit down here myself, and I just wander off sometimes, and I can see them all around her. I can see my grandfather building boats, and there used to be a big store down there. And I'd be down there while he was doing the boats and stuff like that. I mean, it's just memories that you can't, I mean, they're priceless.
As Winnie waves us off, I cannot help but reflect. Almost 50 years ago, this was the only world that many knew. At Port Anne, the Deers, the Hobins, the Hodders and Peavies were the main names. 126 souls are recorded for 1966. Burnt Island, as it was previously called, may have been a charming yet harsh community. Today, it has to be a resort.